I think we're ready to get started. We're very excited to have you join us today for today's webinar. Today's presenter is Mindset Solution Architect and SAP Solution Owner, Cloud Solution Owner, Andy Pryor. Andy is a tech enthusiast and a UX champion. He's an active blogger and speaker about UX, cloud, and innovation. Having over 12 years of experience leading and designing solutions for several technology spaces, Andy looks for impactful ways to improve processes. He also looks to push designs one step further outside the box. Using design thinking and a broad SAP knowledge, Andy creates practical and beautiful designs. He's spoken for SAP at a number of events, including TechEd, Sapphire, ASUG, and for SAP Insider. He's put together a great presentation today for you. And so without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Andy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar today. Today, we're here to talk about SCP Portal and how you could launch a Fiori Launchpad on Portal on Cloud Platform. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to create a website, how to put the Fiori Launchpad on that site, and then after that, we'll deploy a real Fiori Launchpad to show that application. So let's get started here. Just a quick note about our company here. So at Mindset, our mission is to make employees' lives at work much better. And how we can affect that is by improving the UX with SAP. We can do that by automation, through better user experience, digitalizing many of the kind of processes that make you unhappy throughout the day, and make them a little bit more tenable as you work forward with them. So SAP has built a great platform to do a lot of business value jobs, and a lot of times they just need to be customized to suit your needs. So we are an part of the App House network, and what that means is that we are the first SAP App House in the United States. We do a lot of training and demonstrations and customer engagements in a very creative space. We're also a silver partner with SAP. Okay, so to start off with, in order to move forward with this hands-on session, you will need to have a free trial account. Okay, so this trial account here that you see, account.hanatrial.com on demand. I'm sorry, account.hanatrial.ondemand.com will give you access to where you need to log in. It's pretty straightforward. It's not very complex to do. You just need to follow the prompts. So once we log in with our free trial account, we're going to log into the SCP cockpit. We're going to take our portal site and get it ready. We're going to configure an FLP, the FLP being the Fiori Launchpad. We're going to import an application into Web IDE. Then we're going to deploy the application to SAP Cloud Platform. And then lastly, we will register the application to the Fiori Launchpad, and then we can test it. So that's a lot of things we're going to do in this short period of time. All right. Just a note on the trial account. So whenever you're doing this registration, again, just follow the prompts. When you first log in, you're going to get a prompt that may make it seem like you can't forge ahead without your phone number. You can. It's talking about the Cloud Foundry environment, where you're going to be working in the Neo environment today. So you do not need to supply your phone number in order for that to work. And also, you may see several legal disclaimers that shows up that you may not see in this video because I've already registered my account. And then one final difference is that you may be using a account that belongs to a SAP customer. So you may run into some blocks in the road for you in order to proceed. And I'll try to point those out along the way so that you know what to do. But so the trial account is the best place to really just test things out unencumbered by security and that kind of thing. So we're going to go through that today. All right, time for the hands-on. So I'm going to switch to a different window here. Okay, this one right here. So this is the screen whenever you log in to the trial account. This is the first thing that comes up. And it's, as you can see, it says verify your phone number before you can access the Cloud Foundry trial. So you either do this and you fill out the phone number if you want, or you can just close it. Okay. And once you close it, if you scroll down, there's going to be a lot of things about learning, and these are all pretty good. They're pretty helpful. But there is this environments portion right here. And under here, there's Cloud Foundry trial and Access Neo trial. We want Neo. So the difference between these two is that Neo is all of the SAP proprietary types of services that you would expect to find from SAP. So Web IDE, Portal, things of that nature. This Cloud Foundry trial is a little different. So this is more working within the Cloud Foundry stack. The Cloud Foundry stack is mostly about using more open frameworks or open source frameworks you would find. So examples of that would be like Mono for .NET, or like C#. Others would be VB or C++, or any of those frameworks that you find in a lot of the open source or Linux types of distributions. That's all here. So Python, Java, etc. But we're not going to get into that today. We're going to access Neo. Okay. So once we come into Neo, we've signed on. We have our single sign-on framework, and our cockpit is organized this way. So this is the data center. This data center is where the trial account is. So right now we're in Europe and Rotterdam, Germany. So that's under trial. You can switch to another region, but for trial, this is the only option. So a couple things to draw your attentions to is this overview shows kind of the basic information about Cloud Platform. It shows the different applications that you would have deployed to Cloud Platform, the services that are available to you, connectivity, which we will not be covering today. The application we'll deploy will be 100% mock data, but connectivity is how you connect to a cloud connector and connect to your backend server applications from Cloud Platform. Also under here is the security, so trust. This is if you want to set up a single sign-on for your corporate identity provider. Authorizations to what a user has authorizations to on the site. And another one you don't see on the trial that you would see as a customer is there's a members portion down here. And so that way you can control the members who have access to Cloud Platform Cockpit. So since this is trial, only I have access to my cockpit. You would only have access to yours. We wouldn't be able to share that. All right. Okay, so the first thing we want to do whenever we get started with this is we need to go and provision a portal site. The way we get there is through services right here. And there'll be a lot of services that you will see here. The easiest way to find your services is just to go to the search, type in portal. As you can see, I've just typed POR and it gives me the different applications that will have POR or some sort of relation to that, some sort of keyword for that. And the one we want is portal. So one thing that will be different for you if you've never signed into trial and you never interacted with portal is you need to enable the service. So mine is already enabled. You would have a similar button here that would say enable. You would push it. It would take some time for Cloud Platform to provision it. It's not very long, maybe 30, 45 seconds, and then it's ready for you to go. This is not necessary for trial, but I want to show this for those of you who are using customer accounts. Is you need to go to this configure portal to have access to it, and under roles here, we have some standard roles that are associated with portal. And the really important one for what we're doing today is this tenant admin, tenant_admin. It's a predefined role that says you have access to do whatever you want on the portal site. Here we have like my user ID assigned to this. We could assign other user IDs. So if you were a customer and you were trying to assign people access to that, that's where you would do this here. More likely it would be a group, and then you would assign the whole group, and you would use the membership tab that I was talking about earlier. Or I'm sorry, the security tab we saw earlier. Okay, and then here you can switch to many different services that are there. This will take you back to where you were. So for me, I'm going to go back to portal so that I can get back to the screen, and I'm going to go to service. So this is the URL that has our ID here at the top, and that has to do with the sub account. And then this creates a, I'm sorry, it doesn't create, it invokes the portal, Cloud Platform Portal's site directory or site collection for this sub account. You can see here I already have some sites that I've created previously. I can create a new site here. I can look at a few analytics, and then also have some links to some other things here that we'll go over in a bit. So we'll create a new site. And whenever we create a new site, this comes up. And so you might be wondering, why am I having to put in my credentials again? I'm already on Cloud Platform. So for the trial accounts, you can see I'm using a user ID that has Michael Pryor. Michael is my middle name. And I have a Gmail account associated with that for my demos. And that's how I registered for Cloud Platform Trial. So I put in my user information for this user ID. I fill it in, I hit OK. It allows me to get to the create site dialog. The first thing we want to do is just to create a name for our site. So we have a collection of sites. We're going to make a individual site. So I'm going to call this my SCP demo. All right. Under here, we have different templates for the sites that we have. So we have the starter site, we have the basic layout set, we have the admin site, the Fiori Launchpad, a marketing site, and then these here are for Salesforce. I'm sorry, not Salesforce, SuccessFactors. SuccessFactors for the different sites that you would connect to SuccessFactors. And then these two are soon to be deprecated. So the very first portal site that was available was this Parallax site, and then an older version of the marketing site. So we're not going to be using those today. And the one we're looking for is the Fiori Launchpad. So we select Fiori Launchpad and we're ready to create. Now that I have created the site, it takes me from the site directory to the Fiori configuration for the Launchpad for this site. So my SCP demo, the Fiori Launchpad configuration. And what you can notice about this screen is we have a dashboard that quickly gives us information about what is available on the site. I have 9 themes. I have no destinations. I can't connect any backend systems yet. I have no apps deployed, so no UI5 apps or DIM Pro apps or anything that are deployed here. I have 2 roles, 1 catalog and 1 group. So let me go over the catalogs and groups if you're not real familiar with Fiori. A catalog is basically like the phone book of applications you have access to. If you're in a sales and distribution role and you're creating sales orders, you may have the ability to view, create, update sales orders. That would be 1 catalog. Within that catalog, there would need to be roles that have access to that. So what's important about that is that there may be a role that is generally for the sales and distribution group so that they can access that catalog. There may be another catalog that is for just the managers of sales and distribution. So they're going to get some reporting, some analytics about the sales orders that are created that you would see on the Launchpad, and there will be a separate role for that. So we have 2 roles, and I'll go over those in a moment. Finally is groups. So groups and roles kind of sounds confusing, right? Groups is actually groups that you see on the Fiori Launchpad. So if you just have a catalog assigned to you, that's just a bucket of apps. a group is a grouping of applications. So for my example, for people who are creating sales orders and managers, the managers would have both groups. It would have both catalogs. So I could create two groups for the manager. I'd have the standard view, create, and update sales order group. So we could call that sales and distribution representative. And then I would have the sales and distribution reporting group that you would see on the Launchpad. So that's what that is for. It's for organization. It is not access control. Roles is access control. Groups is organization. Catalogs are the apps that you get. Hopefully that makes sense. We'll see that more clearly in a moment here whenever we begin to create these out. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this content management. And these have the things I just talked about there. And so whenever we look at that, we want to look at the catalogs here. So what they've done is very kindly created a sample catalog for us to look at. It has what the catalog name and description is. It has an ID that it kind of uses behind the scenes. Who created it? It shows my ID as creating it because I am the one who created the site. But then there's the capability of adding more, right? So this is how we create a new catalog. So let's create a new catalog. We're going to call this my catalog. How about my demo catalog? Stay consistent. And then this can be whatever you want. All right, so that's the minimum you need to save the catalog. I save it, it goes from new catalog to my demo catalog with a description. So that gives you an idea what the catalog is. All right, it's giving me a warning here. What can that be? Obviously, it's pointing to this roles here. It's red. So that what it's saying is I don't have any roles to secure this catalog. So please create a role so that I can be accessed. So there's two ways to do that. The first way is you go into edit mode, you create a new, or you assign a new role here. And so these are the roles that come out of the box. Remember you saw two earlier. So these standard ones are anonymous and everyone. Anonymous is for people who are accessing the website without any sort of secured connection. So you're not logging in, you're just Joe user off of the internet. You're trying to connect to a website. You're anonymous. You're not authenticated. So this one we're not going to use because we're securing our Fiori Launchpad using a user ID and password. This is not an anonymous site. Everyone is everyone who can be authenticated to this website. So if you have access to this website, you have access to this catalog. Okay, but we don't have a new one here, so I'm going to cancel out of that. I'm going to cancel my changes here, and let's go in and create a role. So here are the two of these. They don't have anything assigned to it. Everyone doesn't have anything assigned, and anonymous doesn't have anything assigned. So not surprisingly, you push the plus button again. We're going to call this my demo role and whatever we want here. Okay. All right, so I save it. Same problem. Doesn't contain this role ID. Create a matching role. All right. So it doesn't like what I've used there. Successfully saved. Okay. So now we have to add a catalog. Luckily, we have a catalog already. So we're going to add our catalog. It's my demo catalog. Select that and save it. Once we save it now, it should be happy. Successfully saved. There we go. Feature of Cloud Platform. All right, so it's happy now that it's been saved. I've got the role there and it's refreshed. So now we have a catalog and we have a role. Let's create a group. We want our Launchpad to have a group that's on it. So for our group, I'm just going to call it demo group. And we're going to save it. So we have created a group, and we can also assign a role to it. So we can assign my demo role. I'm not going to let everybody access it. So I have my demo role added to that. So we effectively have a group. That's not super useful because it's a group of nothing. So the last part is we need an app. We do not have an app. So if you do have an app deployed already, you can click new and add it here. But in reality, we know that we have to deploy an application to Cloud Platform. So the way that we do that is with Web IDE. So to get back to Web IDE, we need to go back to our cockpit. You need to go to our service, and you can find it here through the Web IDE full stack. You can also go to this screen, and you can find it in the services here, like I showed you earlier. There it is. And then the final way is there's this useful tools here. It'll take you directly to the Web IDE for that sub account. So that's the easiest. It's on the screen. You don't have to navigate away from it. So I've tried to make my screen a little bit bigger here so it's easy to see. So now we're in Web IDE. We need to get something in our project here. So I'm going to go to this home screen here. And there's a lot of ways that we can import applications. The one we're going to use today is from our Git repository. So we're going to clone that from Mindset's GitHub repository. And for that, we need a URL. So in our documentation that you can access, we have the link to this. So don't feel like you have to furiously write all of these things down. But there are files here that will consist of the website that you can test this out on your own. So from here, we have a demo application, and the URL I need is right here. So it says clone or download. You want to use this clipboard icon here to save it. It saves the URL that's there. And then after I've copied that, I will insert it here. Okay. I will clone it. If it's a secured repo, it's not a public repo like the one I just pulled from, it'll make you put in your user ID and password, but this was a public repo, so it didn't prompt me for my GitHub credentials. So that may be something that's different if you're pulling an app from somewhere else. Okay, so let me talk about the structure of this Web IDE real quick. So we have a couple of things here that I've added. I've added a get ignore on this project here, and the reason is because within this there are a few things that happens whenever I deploy an application, and a lot of it is it just so Web IDE knows how to deploy it again. So we deploy it. I'll show you how to deploy in a minute, but when we deploy it, it's going to save all of this information in Web IDE. And it's going to show you that some files have changed. So you can see right now, nothing has changed. Everything's exactly the same as it was when I pulled it from GitHub. And the main file that we care about here is this component.js. So I'm not going to change anything here today, but this is where a lot of our JavaScript is. This is the kind of the central point where we kick things off within a SAP UI5 application. Our mock data exists in this folder. And then finally, there's this folder here that's the .che. Most of the time you can't see this because there's this icon at the top that has the eye there. I call it the don't lie to me icon. So I want to see everything there. I'm a nerd. I want to know what everything is. So there's this .che folder. And so what I've done is I've created a get ignore that says, ignore these things and also ignore this .che file or folder. And what's in there is there's runner configurations, environments, and as a developer, you should know what those things are. There's also this project.json thing that's here. And with that comes some really specific information about who is using it. And so when in a minute, you'll see that this changes. Right now, there's nothing in it, but eventually it'll have like my user ID in there. It'll have some information that's not real useful for when someone clones it. So that's why we use get ignore. All right, so let me kind of shrink this back down so it's a little easier to consume. So what we're going to do here is we're going to deploy. We right click on it. We're going to go to this deploy here, and the options you see are deploy to SAP UI5 ABAP repository. That's for deploying to an on-premise system. So that is a front-end server for Fiori or a gateway system. That's where we're deploying that application to. This application here is to deploy to SAP Cloud Platform. That's what we want to do. And then there's also register to the Fiori Launchpad. Okay, those are two separate steps. There's one that's to deploy it to the Cloud Platform like we saw in the cockpit. The next one here is to register to a Fiori Launchpad. And I'll walk you through both of those. All right, so let's start off with deploying to Cloud Platform. I click that, it's going to have information here about how I deploy that. So I can deploy it as a new application. I can update an existing application. And then there's some version management that's here. So I can deploy it, and what it's going to do is going to create an application named My Demo App. It's going to create a version for that, and then it's going to activate it. Now, in trial, you only have access to the sub account you're in. When you have a paid account, you have the capability of selecting a different sub account here if you're configured in the right way. So if you're thinking about how do I promote this to QA and prod, this is one way to do it. But just keep that in mind. That's what this account here is for. So I'm going to deploy this. It doesn't like, okay. So this is a good error. I already had this application deployed, so I'm just going to update it. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to the HTML5 application here. And so that you see my demo app is already here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop that. I'm going to delete it. All right, I'm going to go back to Web IDE. I'm going to deploy it through Cloud Platform, create a new application. It's been deployed. So version 1 has been created. I can register to the Fiori Launchpad here, or I can do it in this one right here. So it's the same. Do it from here. All right. So it knows that I'm in trial. It knows that I need to use this the portal that is within trial. So I'm going to call my application My Demo App. Let me see if I can. There we go. Shrink this back out. So there are two things you see here. There's the semantic object, which is usually in reference to what is this thing, what is this object that I'm referencing, what is the purpose of this application. The purpose of this application is to display. So it's usually helpful to have a name here or a description for your app. All right, so we're going to click next. All right, this is what I really like about Cloud Platform and Web IDE. If you've ever had the experience of creating the different roles and the groups and the catalogs and the tiles, all of those things are not exactly the funnest thing to do on the Fiori front-end system. But here, or the front-end server, but here it's all selection. So if you want to create a dynamic tile that has a number in the bottom right, then you can point it to the service URL where it gets the count that needs to be there and what collection it is. It'll also give you with the numbering unit that you have here. So it could be dollars, it could be a count of something, and then how often it pulls for that. But for today, we're not connecting to a backend, so we're going to stick with static. So this is My Demo App, is the title, and under the subtitle is this is a test. All right, we're going to browse through this, and you have the ability to select many types of icons here. So if I were to type in something like cloud, I'm going to pick this upload to cloud, even though it's probably not within the standard icons that we would pick for what this application is. It's just to show that you can pick an icon. So this is what our tile will roughly look like as it is unthemed at the time. So we hit next. So here we have the different sites we saw earlier. I'm going to use the My SCP demo. I'm going to use my demo catalog instead of the sample catalog that I created. And then I have my demo group that I created. So there's kind of a redundancy here, I think. You can click next and it tells you, great, we created this FLP config JSON file for you in your project. You can click finish. I'm not sure why this needs to be an extra step, but you can actually just go backwards and say finish here and it's done. So we are registered to the Launchpad, okay? So I'm going to leave this open just because of what's here. So we're going to see if it shows up here. We need to refresh our screen. This is a web. There we go. There's our app. So everything we just did in Cloud Platform Web IDE now shows up here. All right, maybe we should test our site out and see what it looks like. Yay, we have a Fiori Launchpad. I haven't done any theming to this yet, so there's nothing here that is going to look super interesting without themes, but this is kind of a bare bones so I can demo. So let's click on the tile. It should be ready to go, right? Wrong. You would think at this point this is where you would get stuck. This error information just says could not open app. If you were to copy this, the information just says error opening application. So what the real issue here is that this tile, it's trying to invoke an application, and you would think it has enough information to launch that, but it doesn't. What it needs is something that we saw here. This right here is component based, so we need to have the name of the component. So this is what we named it, was SAP UI demo Fiori 2. So I'm going to copy that. We don't want the dot component here. That's explaining what this is, but we need this namespace that's before it. So with that, we're going to go back here, and you see this attributes. The Fiori ID is this UI5. I'm sorry, this component ID. It doesn't fill it in. So I would expect that it would know that I deployed that application. It should have pulled it from the component.js, but it doesn't. So I add this into here for what the UI5 component is. I save it. Let's try it again. You know, I'll have you notice here that it detected I made a change, so it knows that something is different here, and I'll explain these in a minute. So let's get rid of our previous preview because it's just safe to reload it. Okay, we have a Launchpad. Fingers crossed. Yay, we have an app. Okay, so that configuration change has made a difference. We're able to get into this application. And so just to talk about the layout that's used here, this app looks familiar if you've ever been in any of the Fiori documentation. This is a representation of it used to be called master detail. Now it's a multiple column type of application. So let me show you some of the features. So here we have a list of products, and as I go through these different products, you can see that the picture changes for it, the information here changes for it. There's a list of suppliers that don't change because it's only so far that the demo application goes, but let's pretend these change too. So that's what this list is for. So from here I could type in camcorder. There's camcorder. right? And you can do some sorting. Right now, it only is set up to sort on the product name. If I had the capability, I could add a new one. I don't believe this does anything. See, yep, not ready yet. And then inside of this, so that's one column. That's almost like one list application on its own that then drills into this. So maybe you have a lot of columns here and you just want to extend this out. You can show more information in this list if you needed it, but we don't need that. So this is pretty nice for changing the way it looks on your screen, especially useful for a desktop. Inside of that, we have an object page. An object page is supposed to be specific to a specific object. So our specific object here is this beam breaker B2. It has some information about it, how much it costs, and then has general information and suppliers that are attributes of this product. So I can, what you're seeing here is I can hide this information at the top. I want to have more real estate here. But maybe I have a lot of stuff that I want to see on the screen. So I can expand this to take up the full screen, right? And now I have a lot of extra space there to look at what's going on with this product. So with this, since this is a very simple application, there's not a lot to see here, but some of these objects, there could be a lot of attributes that go with that. So under our suppliers, we have a list that we can drill into. This is not implemented, but basically it shows this, if this is the titanium vendor, maybe some high level information about them. And then I could drill in even farther. They would give me some details about the supplier. And then I have to back out of there to get back to here. Now, one of the things that might be confusing for those that are using this type of layout is, well, I've got this in here, but now how do I get out of full screen? That's this icon up here on the right. And then we're back to our view there. And also close this out, and I'm at this screen, so it's full screen now. Maybe I'm more interested in the Astro laptop, and it comes back. The other part here is these edit, delete, copy. This is kind of like to share it. These are not implemented, but basically what you would have here is if you went into edit mode, then you had some attributes you could change on the screen, and you could go down here and save. So this is very flexible usage that saves a lot of real estate on the screen, but there are just features in it that's not implemented. So, okay. So let me go back here and see this in one more view. Let's do this view. So this looks okay on a tablet, right? It scales pretty decent. Where it starts to kind of break down is on a mobile device. So on a mobile device, this is more like the master detail that you might be used to. So things like this are hidden, not ideal to have it hidden like that on a mobile device, but there it is. We go into it, and now you can see our screen real estate is way smaller. The information you see here is okay, but it's not ideal for a mobile device. So there are my other buttons there. So this all scales on its own. Doesn't need to have any special information there, but user experience is not great on a mobile device. So I'm going to get out of my preview here. I'm going to look at what could I do to fix that. So let's look at our supported devices that are here. I can go in here and say, I don't think this looks good on a smartphone. I'm going to take that away. I'm going to save that. And now I'm going to preview it again. Let me go to my phone. Oh, snap. Okay, so this application is configured to be working on different devices, but for the most part, what that should do on the configuration is to prevent this from showing up on the launch pad. So the tile should not show up there. That's what I get for trying to do something extra in an untested demo. All right, so this is not on the internet yet. This is all set to go to be published. I have one view of everything that has to do with this application. We've got the properties. It has this UI component that we needed to add. I can look at the catalog that's associated with it, and then this could be multiple catalogs. The group that it's associated with also could be multiple groups. the visualization that's supposed to control the supported devices that you would see this application with. And this parameters is probably not something that you're going to usually use, but basically it parses the intent. So display, update, maybe the application is the way it is, but if the intent is to display, then we disable the edit and delete buttons. Okay, so that's an example of what we would see here. All right, so back to this. Now up here, you saw I was pushing this button. This is to preview it before it goes to the internet. By internet, I mean on SAP's cloud platform. The last button we have here is to publish it. So now I'm going to actually publish it to the internet. I'm going to push this button here to clear the HTML5 cache. And what that means is that, let's say it's already been published and it's live and users are accessing it, and I want to do an update. So to clear this HTML5 cache, that lets the application know on the device that's been accessing it, something has changed, you need to reload. So by default, Fiori applications are single page applications. They're meant to operate inside of that one page. You never leave the index.html. Everything based off of that are through these parameters that you see on the top here. So it's generating URL parameters to change the way the site behaves. And then it also uses Ajax to kind of reach out to services and that kind of thing. So we need to let them know, the devices know, the app has changed, you need to reload. That's the purpose of this checkbox. So we have a couple options here. We can publish and open, can publish, cancel. So I'm just going to publish for right now. It's publishing to the internet. It says it's successfully published. And now I'm going to do open. And now I have the URL of the Fiori Launchpad. You can see I don't have any testing tools at the top here. It looks slightly different. The UX is slightly better than in our test tool. There's still no theme applied to it, but I can get to the application. It behaves the way that we expect it, and we saw it earlier. Everything works exactly the same. So this is, the test tool is a little lighter on what it loads, but it just looks a little bit more polished whenever it's published to the internet. Okay. All right. So what we've covered here, we're able to look at some of these other things that are on the side. What are the usage analytics of the app? That's really nice to look at the application. How many times has it been accessed? We have to enable that, of course, but you can see what the usage is, where it's coming from. So this is a very useful analytics dashboard that comes with that. All right. So now I think I will go back to our screen here on our dashboard. You can see that we have one app now. Now we have 2 catalogs, 3 roles, 1 group, 9 themes. And then these are the themes that you would typically see on SAP system. We can assign one of those themes to see what it looks like. Belize is the Fiori 2.0, and then Quartz is what is assigned right now. So this is the theme that Quartz is assigned. So let me switch it to Belize site so you can see what that looks like. I need to go back here. I need to clear my cache. I need to publish it. Now the theme is different. This is probably more what you're used to seeing. The Quartz theme is a Fiori 3.0 version, so you get to see kind of what the new theme looks like. You can also create your own branding in the theme designer. So if I had Acme Company, I could have the icon up here. I could have the background image that's representative. I could follow the coloring scheme that is important for my company. And that way it falls in line with the brand that you may already have for your internet site or your corporate theme. Either one of those, it applies to that. All right, that is it. So let me switch back to our final screen here. If you have any questions about what you saw today, please feel free to give me or Amy a contact here. Again, I'm the Director of Cloud Solutions for Mindset. I've included a link to our YouTube channel there at the bottom there. And then just some general information about some other areas that we cover. So in that YouTube channel, you'll be able to see other webinars that we've done at Mindset, including this one. It should be there within today or tomorrow. This webinar will be there. And yeah, let me pause for questions.
Actually, John, I think we're good, or Andy, excuse me, I think we're good with questions. I guess what I can remind people is we are following up with a documentation of all of the instructions that Andy did today. So if you have questions in the future as you try these things yourself, please don't hesitate. But you must have done a great job of explaining things, because nobody's got questions at this point. So.
Perfect. Sounds great. Well, again, if you have any questions or you want anything in particular, please reach out to me at my email address there, andy@mindsetconsulting.com, and I'll be more than happy to speak with you. Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Thank you again. And if anybody has questions or wants to schedule any one-on-one time with Andy or with me, please don't hesitate. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.